Okay. All right.
I've dealt with tractor dealers a long time.
Yeah, you were right. Yeah, I haven't gotten the tractor back. It sucks, but I'm hoping they'll pop up tomorrow. So, um, one thing about the tractor people I noticed is if they don't call by 8:30 in the morning, you're not going to hear from them all day. So they're very early people. I've noticed that. So, on this episode of the John 1911 Podcast, prayers for Florida, finding government M-16’s, hunter shoots a husky, and will Russia test a torpedo nuke? Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Danny and Marky, and this is episode 273 of the John 1911 Podcast. Today is Monday, October 3rd, 10:01 a.m. exactly, Eastern Standard Time. Again, feel like I have to timestamp stuff because things happen so quickly that, if something major happens today in Ukraine, for example, and we don't cover it on pod, it's because it happened 15 minutes after we stopped recording. So, or hopefully the recording doesn't stop from the EMP blast from Vladimir Putin. Holy shit. So, but before we get into the heavy podcast stuff, I just want to say, because I haven't told you, I did. I sent you the final proof for the John 1911 coffee mugs, right? Yeah, I sent that to you.
Yes.
Yeah,
so I have been looking for my Amazon delivery driver for dropping them off, but they haven't showed up yet.
We don't even have them ourselves, so we probably won't have them for a month because they got to be laser engraved and all that. So, which is fine. But
what was the final one you went with? Which design?
It's I guess I'm using the phrases they use. A tumbler is what I would consider a normal cup without a handle. And then a cup with a handle was called a travel mug. So we went with a travel mug that's got a handle that should be big enough for an adult hand, which I've seen that's been an issue for some other companies. And we went with the traditional John 1911 shield logo design with no border around it, so where the guns kind of stick out a little bit. And we had to make some small changes to the pistol just because of how finely it is drawn. I wasn't confident that all the detail would show up exactly with a laser. So, and also we went with like a navy blue or not a midnight, more like a dark navy blue. And the reason is it's twofold. One, the black cups, whenever they would render them, the cups looked more gray than black. And I was like, I just felt like it washed out our logo a little bit. And then the other thing, people kind of know this, I'm kind of sick of black. You know what I mean? Like everything is black and tactical, and I'm just, I'm not going to order black especially if I'm not even going to actually get black. It's like, well, fuck, it's not even dark as black. So the next darkest color I could find was the navy blue. It's more like I wouldn't call it a police blue, but it's close enough. So.
And what color logo? Silver or gold?
Well, they're silver because it's lasered, so you get the stainless steel that comes through it. So, but I gotta tell you this. We did receive suggestions from more than one listener who wanted us to do a mug that said, "Danny, watch your microphone." Which, considering just now you just made a noise, I'm like, "Danny, watch your microphone." So
that was you. That wasn't me. I haven't moved, but I'll take the blame. I'm good for it.
No, no, seriously, that noise was not me. Was that? Technically speaking, like that wasn't you.
No.
Did you hear it?
I moved. Yes, I heard it. So if I heard it, how could it be me?
Because you're not deaf. I don't know. It wasn't me.
I'm deaf.
So
it's Putin. Wonder what we're talking about, the nukes.
Oh God. So what do you think about the Huffington Post?
Danny, watch your microphone.
Yeah,
that's
Danny
classic.
I thought that was pretty good. So
I thought it was very good because it's very apropos.
Yeah. So there was a story, Huffington Post. Now there was a story earlier in the year from, I'd call them the left-wing media, that was trying to make an argument of how inflation is good for people. And, it's like, all right, okay, sure. I mean, there's always winners and losers in life. Sure thing. That's fine. They got to make the argument. You know, like the border is the most secure it's ever been. Like
Right.
whatever. And now Huffington Post has run a story about how a small nuclear exchange, or did it say nuclear war? A small nuclear exchange in Ukraine could uh, 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 help stop global warming. And I'm like, you fucking psychopaths. You fucking you you
Well, yeah, we have that story. And how about Biden calling out the dead Congresswoman? Woman? Did you see that?
I heard about it.
He asked for her. She's in the grave.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah, he's not mentally challenged.
I mean it's the Biden situation is so out of control. I mean, look, I've said it 100 times. You've said it 100 times. The fact that Joe Biden is president is dangerous. Now I guess Joe Rogan's finally saying it. Like we've been saying it for a year. Um, you know, like okay, like let's talk about nukes and Biden. Okay, you know, a calculus. There's always calculus, even if you didn't take calculus. There's always calculus, and so whether it's Putin and maybe his three best buddies, but Putin's talking to somebody in the Kremlin. You know what I mean? He's got to have advisors that are on Team Putin that are like, yeah, we're going to win this. And they're trying to factor in the chess moves of using a small tactical nuke in Ukraine. And the reality is, and this is the truth. This is the truth. You don't want to have something that escalates so quickly that you lose control of it, and it turns into a wider war. And so you have to factor in the political ramifications, and you have to factor in the military response that they could be facing. They could be facing from the West. And the reality is, they're sitting around. Joe Biden is not a factor. If anything, like if I was sitting around and I was like one of the three people sitting around with Putin, I would always be talking about Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense. The U.S. Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, former general, retired general. Because the reality is, Austin is the one that's in control. Austin is the one that knows what's going on. Austin is the one that can put two and two together. Austin is the one that, because he's a Secretary of Defense, he flies around in an E-4B, which is a militarized version of Air Force One. Think of it like the Holiday Inn version of Air Force. If Air Force One is the Four Seasons, the E-4B Secretary of Defense aircraft is the Holiday Inn version. It's not nearly as plush, but it's even probably got more communications in it than Air Force One. My point being, Austin can command and control and fight a nuclear war. He can command and control forces anywhere in the world from his aircraft at any time. And so, if I were the Russians, I'd be always tracked. I mean, you track his movements anyway, but I would track his schedule, track his movements, track his comments, track where he is relative to the president. Like I would even make an argument, like try to make a move when he's asleep.
Something. They're going to be watching. I don't think Putin, personally, I don't think he is going to use even a tactical nuke because he's had a lot of setbacks and he hasn't yet. But then again, he's not one for taking setbacks, but I still don't think he's going to use a nuke. I would hope not.
I thought early on in the war the chances of using a nuke were high. Then I think they went down. And personally, right now, I think they're going back up. Um, uh,
Why?
they
Because the mass exodus of over 250,000 from Russia when he called up the reserves.
we did. I don't know if it was the last podcast if I did it solo, but we had the stories of the traffic lines backed up from Finland and then backed up into Georgia. The one in Finland was, and then some people tried to discount it, but they proved it was satellite. The one in Finland was like 30 or 35 kilometers long. The line to cross into Finland from Russia until they closed the border. And the Georgia Georgia, which is down by the Black Sea, which is southeast of Ukraine. Keep in mind, somebody on the internet, because the internet always wins, they put a meme up and they showed Russian citizens lined up to get into Georgia outside of from Russia, last week, and then they showed the line of armored column tanks and troops that had crossed into Georgia in 2008 when Russia invaded Georgia, and there was a brief little war, and it's just like, you got to be shitting me. I mean, it's first they invade, now they flee, and I don't know, like it's. Well, before I say what do you think? What do you think Putin is thinking right now? What's his position, Danny?
He's got to save face somehow.
Yes.
That's number one on his agenda. He's got to save face because when you have the residents fleeing his country, when you have the setbacks militarily like he has, happened in the last few weeks, they've when they've lost land that when Russia has lost land that they had already basically taken, and now the Ukrainians have taken it back. That's a lot of slapping in the face. So he's getting kicked in the nuts pretty good. So I'm thinking he's going to do something. That's my take on it.
But you don't think he'd use a nuclear weapon?
No, I think he's going to start a bombing campaign. I really do. Instead of not the ground war, I really think he's going to start an aerial bombing campaign.
Well, he's been bombing the entire time. They're running out of bombs
More
and missiles.
So. Oh, really? I thought he would step it up.
Like all those Iskander missiles that everybody feared, like it was like, oh, the Iskander, which is nuclear capable. They were firing Iskanders. They've run out of a lot of their, they've run out a lot of their ordnance. They did not have the logistics train to do this, and like it's. How do I say this? I think the chances of Putin torching off a nuclear weapon are very high. Let's talk about what's happened in the past, say, 24 to 12 to 24 hours. There was a scheduled nuclear forces. The Russians call them their strategic rocket forces, I think is what they call them. I can't remember what the SV, what do they call them? But they're gonna do a test this fall, like they're gonna do an exercise. They don't do exercises as often as we do because they don't have the money or the organization. So some stuff started moving, some equipment started moving that are associated with the strategic rocket forces, and then there's this, they call it the Doomsday Sub, the Volgograd, or it might even be named after a town in Ukraine, which is bonkers. It's one of their newer. Danny, do you remember the story about the nuclear torpedo that the Russians had come up with to that they could? It's really like a drone. It's like a robot that goes. I don't know how fast it goes, but they can fire it from, say, I don't know, 600 miles away, and it head towards a city. And then if it detonates off the coast or of a port city, it'll send a 1,600-foot tidal wave.
I remember that. Yes, I do. Yes,
they have never actually tested that weapon. They developed it. They've actually theoretically deployed it. Well, that ship has left is headed out into the White Sea where it's based, and it's like, well, it's not going to do anything in Ukraine. Well, what they may do is it might be a version of what we call escalate to de-escalate, and there is a big I can't remember what they call it, Noviersk. If you look at a map of Russia, and you don't have to be a Russian expert to see this, but if you look at a map of Russia and you look at the top of Russia where it's over like basically in the Arctic Circle, you'll see this island that looks like a left side parentheses. It's got a hook into it, and that is the like one side of it is the Arctic Sea, and the other side of it inside of that hook is the Kara Sea. Well, basically that island and then that land, that water mass up there around that sea is where the Russians have done a lot of their nuclear testing. It's where they dumped a lot of their old worn out nuclear submarines or reactors. They dump stuff in the ocean up there. It's their dumping ground. It's their testing site. Danny, do you ever seen? There's video. I can't remember when they torched this thing off, but the largest nuclear weapon ever tested in human history was tested by the Soviets, and it was called the Tsar Bomb, TSAR bomb. And it was supposed to be a 100 megaton bomb. And they did a test. There's a video of this test. And they actually dialed it back because they were afraid that even 100 megatons was too much. I think was Hiroshima 15 kilotons. And they torched the Tsar Bomba off up there. And the theory is right now that this submarine is going up into the Kara, I think it's the Kara Sea, and you might see a large nuclear test of this torpedo thing, out there. There's not a whole lot of people up there, and so they can swamp. I don't know. I mean,
they're gonna get Greenpeace all pissed off at them.
Oh, everybody's. Oh, yeah, they're. And it's like, and it's like, I don't know, but like tsunamis travel a long way. Like, I mean, if they torch that thing off up there, I mean, it would be nothing to see large waves go under the Arctic Circle and hit Alaska.
Yeah, that's true too. Depending on current and wind, anything's possible.
It's not that far away when you think about it. People, when people that look at maps here, but my point is, the theory is called escalate to de-escalate, and the traditional theory that was always worked out as, and some people claim that this doesn't exist, but escalate to de-escalate as a Russian nuclear doctrine was made up by the West, but it is not true. And the idea being is, you're engaged in a low-level conflict with NATO, and it's not going the way you want it to go or whatever. So what you do is you find some airfield somewhere that's out away from a population that, maybe it's a military target, but it, doesn't have a whole lot of people. The traditional example, and I hate to say this, would be like a little airfield out in the woods in Finland. And I hate to actually say a country because we do have listeners in Finland. But the argument was all of a sudden the Russians, torch a small nuclear weapon on some little airfield up in northern Finland somewhere. And, it's an argument with the Soviets. And it was an argument to, hey, y'all better chill the fuck out because this is about to go nuclear. And it was a way to warn the West, like, even if you win, you're going to lose. And I don't know if Putin is ready to torch a nuke yet in Ukraine for multiple reasons. I think I'd have to check the wind patterns in Ukraine right now, because he would. If he was going to torch a nuclear weapon in Ukraine, it would be a small battlefield nuke. He would have to find a target that would be worth. Militarily, that'd be worth the expenditure, because politically he would suffer a lot, but he's in trouble politically. But then, you got to realize the prevailing winds tend to go from west to east just by virtue of how the world spins, and it can change with winter or summer. But he torches off a nuclear weapon just about anywhere in eastern Ukraine, and the fallout is going to land in Russia.
Well, you know, he's going to do something because he's been getting setback after setback after setback, and his type of character is only going to put up with so much before he makes a statement. And what that statement's going to be, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, the thing is, he can do a nuclear test of this big giant torpedo that they've never actually physically tested. And even if they dial it back, if it's a dial a nuke, and they can claim that we're just we're just testing our nuclear weapons, but the message will be very clear. But then to go back to the argument that we talked about when we started this podcast, the Huffington Post, well, a small nuclear weapon, help, small nuclear war would help global warming. It's like, you psychopaths. Like, when Fukushima in Japan spurted out a little bit of radiation, we tracked it going all around the world and how it crossed the Pacific Ocean, and it was, it was low level, but even, you could detect it in California. And you can tell, like, these are, and also, as a world, we decided in the, I don't know, in the nuclear, it was not the nuclear test ban treaty, but we decided to stop doing nuclear testing above ground and nuclear testing in the atmosphere because of the fallout and radiation. That's why everybody does their nuclear testing. If they need to actually put a nuke, put the tritium triggers in it, and actually detonate it to confirm that your computer models are correct or that your predictions that it still work, you do it underground. Well, if they torch a nuclear torpedo off up there in the Kara Sea, up there at the parentheses, I mean, there's going to be radiation that's going to be flowing all through, at least, like, it's going to, the prevailing winds, it's going to definitely cover the northern hemisphere. They're going to freak the fuck out.
I'd like to see how far, when we did that in the Bikini Islands, how far the radiation went. We didn't have the metering systems that we do now.
Okay, I'm trying to remember. So again, I haven't studied for this quiz. I'm just coming up with the top of my head. I'm trying to remember the testings that we did. What are the names? Oh God, they're so I can't remember so anyway, we were doing a lot of nuclear testing out there in the South Pacific. I can't remember what it was called. I can't remember. But anyway, there was one of them we did a test, and it was so much more powerful than what we expected. It caused blackouts in Honolulu.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, in the 50s, everyone was kind of, it was like giving a kid the keys to a Ferrari. I'm
not a Ferrari type of guy.
It's like there's the theory of Fast and Furious. Then, like, you hand the keys to a Ferrari to a 16-year-old, and the kid's going to try to drift the car, and it ends up, he's sliding into a rail, into a guardrail. So, God, what were they? I wish I could remember, because it make a better pod. And maybe I'm not going to Google it, but we had a bunch of these tests, and one of them, like, we had a couple that were more powerful than what we had thought, I don't know, like, there's talk, how everyone's talking about how the Russians, the Russians are having problems with their troops in the field. Have you heard that, Danny? Like, there's like, troops don't want to fight, troops don't want to do this.
I have heard that.
Troops are retreating.
I have heard that.
Well,
or
the
is it propaganda?
the Russian state, it's real. The Russian state media has actually now acknowledged. They've acknowledged that there's military troops that are on the verge of mutiny and are mutinying, and they're even talking about it relative to their history, because the Russian history, it was called during the Russo-Japanese War in 1905. There was a battleship called Potemkin, and I think it was a battleship. Yeah, it was a battleship called Potemkin, and the crew on the ship mutinied, and eventually put the mutiny down. But it so weakened the Tsar that he actually wait a minute, no, was Potemkin in? Yeah, no, Potemkin was the Russo-Japanese War. I don't think Potemkin made it to the Battle of Tsushima, but it was it. These mutinies in Russian history were started to pull down the Tsar's power, and that eventually even led to more mutinies, to the Russians being able to just finish it off like a few years later. The Russians are real.
I'm trying to I'm trying to remember the name of that ship that the fleet commander was on, and the Japanese sunk it, and then he became a prisoner on that Japanese ship in the 1905 battle. You know which one I'm talking about, where they got
that's the battle. Depending how you want to say it, but it's Jichishima.
I can't pronounce that. That's what I was thinking
you
of.
spell it TS or something, but it's off the coast. It's near the coast of Japan and Korea. That's where because a lot of racist bullshit. Like, oh, we're the Russians and we're European, and little fucking Japanese guys, they don't stand a chance against a Western power. And the Japanese had been getting a lot of their naval tactics, battleships, and doctrine from the British Navy, and they smacked the fuck out of them.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yes, they did. I love reading that chapter in history. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
The Russian-Japanese War.
Well, here's the thing.
They still hate each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
They do. Well, the Russians still occupy some northern islands in Japan, and so, let's go back to the nuclear thing for a minute. Like, okay, I don't know what you just did, but that makes noise on your microphone.
It was me. I will take the blame for that one. My headphone was slipping, and I adjusted it.
Okay. So
I'm guilty. Print a mug and shut up.
Okay. So, but it's like it was like, oh my God, is he going to use
your microphone?
But is Putin going to use a nuke? What's that going to mean? And here's the thing, here's a clue. It's like, does the U.S. government think and the U.S. military think Putin can use a nuke in Ukraine? They absolutely do, and here's why. Because they've had Petraeus come out, they've had the spokesman for the Department of Defense. I think Austin may have said something, but we've come out now at least twice and said, if you use a nuclear weapon in Ukraine, we will commence a full-scale attack on every Russian asset in the Black Sea, and you're going to lose the Black Sea Fleet. And we wouldn't threaten that if we weren't worried that they were going to do this. Now, here's the factor that a lot of people in the West don't understand. They won't accept it. But this is the truth. This is the truth. And this is where the Russians are kind of assholes. And I don't mean this like the Russians are assholes, but even the average Russian is kind of an asshole. And what I mean by that is, and this is because they're nihilistic and it's about their own hides and they're about their own best interest, and that's human nature. So they're human nature assholes. It's not about just being Russian. But all these Russian people that are being scooped up into the military that are now going to be sent to Ukraine with guns that are rusty, no first aid kits, no tourniquets, very little food. Do you think those people would support Putin using a nuclear weapon in Ukraine?
Of course, because they figure that will save them from going.
Correct. And as bizarre as this sounds, the argument for us using nuclear weapons in Japan, and even the Japanese admitted this later, is it saved lives. It saved probably a million American casualties and could have saved maybe 2 million Japanese lives between combat losses and starvation. And, the idea of using a nuclear weapon when you're really in dire straits is not a hard concept to imagine. Russia's in pretty dire straits right now.
Yes, they are.
And I think, that there's a good chance. I mean, I don't know what he's going to do, but I think that I certainly think there's a good high chance that Putin's going to torch a nuke off up there in their testing area.
Well, and then let's look at the other side of the coin, too. With Putin cutting off all the oil and gas reserves to the rest of the EU, I think he's trying to get himself in a bargaining position, too.
Well, he always is.
Well, between the threatening of the nukes, him cutting off the gas and oil supplies, I think maybe somebody, a little birdie, might be telling Putin, "Hey, use this as to get a strategic seat at the table, and maybe we could end this shit." I think it all falls into the same scenario.
Well, sure
somehow.
It does, because the winter is coming in Europe. It means they're going to need natural gas to keep those houses heated.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a big chess game, and they're still only on the first row of pawns.
I think they're beyond the first row. I think they've burned through some pawns already, buddy.
Yeah.
So, think about this though. Okay, let's talk about geopolitics here for a minute. Again, analysis you can get here that you don't get anywhere else. If Putin were to use a nuclear weapon, a small tactical nuke, it'd be a small one, and I don't think Putin would use it on I don't think he'd use it on Kiev. But he's not going to use it on the Russian border. Maybe he would use it on the Russian border. His idea being, well, you know what? We'll radiate some areas and at least to keep NATO out of it. That could be his argument. If Putin uses a small tactical nuclear weapon in Ukraine, who's going to be the biggest loser?
Putin.
Do you know?
Putin.
Putin?
Yes.
I'm going to say it's not Putin. You want to get another guess?
No, I want another guess. No, I'm going to stick with door number 2. I'll go with Putin.
Door number 3, Iran.
No.
Yes.
Why?
Think about this for a minute. Okay, so Russia and by proxy NATO are fighting in Ukraine. There's really no way to argue against that. Just by virtue, we're giving them money and guns, and and the Ukrainians are doing the fighting, and you got to give it to them. And they've done a hell of a lot better job than the fucking Afghans. But
yeah.
So this idea that like obviously the people of Ukraine don't want to be a part of Russia. That's on them. Like they're fighting for their own freedom. Even if this whole argument, you want to buy into that argument about we fucking did this because of fucking NATO, it's like whatever. But even if you want to buy in that argument, your calculus doesn't hold up because the Ukrainians are the X factor here. They're fighting hard for some goddamn reason. And so with all that being said, conventional war, nuclear terror, okay? Basically, that's what Putin is doing. Escalate to de-escalate, which is for nuclear terror, which is a subset of nuclear blackmail. And you think the Israelis are sitting around here looking at the Iran nuclear program, and if a nuclear weapon goes off in Ukraine and the world goes bonkers, it's going to be on. Fucking Israel's Joe Biden president, the only factor that Israel has to make as far as making a run at the Iranian nuclear program is to whether the sacrifice would be worth the damage they could do, and whether they could even make enough of a difference. Because, Iran with a nuclear weapon It's going to reset the entire world because people right now we don't appreciate nuclear weapons anymore. You know, Huffington Post does a story. Would a small nuclear war help stop global warming? I don't know who wrote that story, but I literally want to go to Home Depot. I want to buy an axe handle and I want to beat that fucking person to death. That person needs to be run out of the fucking business on a rail. I don't know who the fuck you are, you fucking moron. It's like,
they're out there.
It's like, okay, like every time there's a nuclear accident and something just goes, spits out just a little sprig of radiation, and they track it all around the world. But now this, like an actual battlefield nuclear weapon, even a small tactical nuclear weapon detonated in an open field or city is going to produce such nuclear fallout, even if it's not shot up into the stratosphere, or the ionosphere, and it travels around the globe. I mean, it's gonna slime an area forever. I mean, it's gonna slime an area for, well, I wouldn't say forever, but it's gonna slime an area for a while. I mean, and it's gonna be a lot more. I don't know. Maybe Maybe the Russians would use maybe the Russians would even make an argument. They would use a 15 kiloton. What was Hiroshima? Was it 1.5 kilotons, or was it? I think it was 15 kilotons. Maybe
no,
the Russians. Kiloton, not megaton. City busters are 40 megatons. Like nuclear weapons today are so much bigger than what was dropped on Hiroshima. It's not even. Basically, what was dropped on Hiroshima is a battlefield nuke today. Basically. I mean, you could. It's in the neighborhood, like a 2 or 3 kiloton battlefield nuke. I mean, like the thing is, like if Putin's going to drop is he going to shoot like a nuclear artillery? I don't even know what kind of little battlefield nukes they've even got right now. Like if it was like a 2 or 3 kiloton weapon, I wouldn't fire one. I'd fire 5 of them. I would try to find areas that are either important to Ukraine or large masses of forces, but I don't think Ukraine has been bunching up their forces too much. And I'd fire 5 of them. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, look, you're going to fire one, you're going to have the same. You might as well fire 5 of them. And if it's not going to be a giant city buster, you could make an argument. You know what? It was the weapons we launched were smaller than what you Americans did at Hiroshima. So suck my dick.
Yeah. Well, I think the phrase tactical, that pronoun goes out the window, because what are you going to have? Directional atoms? Oh, we'll only explode this way? Nah, well, I don't think so.
Battlefield nuclear weapons and tactical nuclear weapons were designed primarily for things like, destroying important infrastructure, like a retreating, or if you had, like, we implemented tactical nuclear weapons in Europe because we were so outnumbered by the Russians, by the Soviets. The idea being like the Russians are coming across the Fulda Gap, which is a pinch point up there in Germany, and it's a plain, and so there's going to be a lot of armor that can operate there. And instead of trying to slug it out with them, if you've got, at the time it was divisions, you got 2 divisions trying to pile through there, you just go ahead and a little battlefield nuke or 2 of them, and reduce their combat effectiveness by 40%. Or as you're backing up, if you have to retreat, because NATO had planned to fight a retreating war in Europe against the Russian invasion, is we back up, and then like if we have to abandon an airfield, we don't want to give it to them, so we just nuke nuke the airfield as we leave. Small little tactical nuke, little backpack bomb, Saddam or something. Like, I mean, the doctrine for this kind of stuff is already out there.
It's crazy. It's crazy. You would have thought maybe that Putin would have offered to detonate that torpedo to stop the hurricane. They could have met in the middle and fought it out.
Mm-hmm.
The tsunami and the hurricane.
Yeah. So that's, anyway, and that's enough of that stuff. So hopefully by the end of today, we don't, by the time I get this podcast published, there hasn't been a nuclear test up in Nova Sky, whatever. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but did you see, dude, I was coming back from the range. I think we were talking. Did you see that because I'm not a big football person, did you see that quarterback that got hit in the football game here in Cincinnati?
Oh, from Miami?
Is that where he's from? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
believe so.
like the way
Yeah.
he was just like, oh my god.
Well, how about the doctor that cleared him and he went back? Now they fired that doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that?
I've heard that they fired the doctor, but the truth is, look, okay, that doctor's going to turn around and sue him because I'm sure the franchise wanted him to play. There was pressure, the doctor to whatever this concussion protocol that they supposedly have is, like that obviously is not really working right. And look, the truth is that quarterback, whatever his name is, he obviously was. I mean, look, if that quarterback had said, "Hey guys, my bell was still rung. I don't think I'm going to play against the Bengals. I don't want to play against the Bengals," they'd have been like, "All right, you out. Fucking call up the backup." He was pushing for it too. And so there has to be.
They're looking for a fall guy, is what they're looking for.
Well, so at least half of it belongs to the guy that was gorked out on that field.
Right.
I mean, that was so bad, dude. I would not be surprised that guy never plays football ever again.
Yeah, he got bell rung my ass. He got labeled.
Yeah, I mean, and like when it's that bad, I don't know anything about concussions. I mean, I don't think I've had a concussion, but I've been kicked and punched in the head enough. I probably have. But they say that once you've had a couple or one, you're more likely to have more.
Yes, you're very more susceptible to them.
And it's cumulative, and it's like that concussion was, dude, that was. I mean,
yeah, it was bad.
I even saw the fans in Cincinnati at the Bengals stadium. Like even everybody in that stadium, even all the Bengals fans were horrified. Like they were all just like, "Oh my god!" Like
yeah,
that was a
hit.
That was, I mean, like it wasn't like, "Oh, your quarterback's out, fuck you," And Cincinnati, again, I can't really speak about football, but Cincinnati's had a lot of their quarterbacks fucked up. You know what I mean? Like Cincinnati.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah,
And Boomer.
Yeah, yeah. Kenny Anderson, Boomer.
Yeah.
They get mauled. Jeff Blake.
Oh yeah.
And then there was the guy Gunner. The only reason I know any of these people is Achilles Smith. I had met Achilles Smith, and the only reason we became gym friends was because I didn't know who he was.
Yeah, you probably learned how to dance from Icky too.
Yeah.
There's the Marky shuffle.
Yeah, the Marky shuffle. There you go. There's my cup. You get Danny, watch your microphone, do the Marky shuffle. Dude, that was just. I mean, not that I ever want to talk about football, but it's like, oh my god. I mean, like you look at that guy, and you got to be real here. Like, let's be real, like real here about football. I've never played football, so, don't come at me that hard. I'm just going to make an objective. That guy, when he's fucking, like, his brain is just completely short-circuiting out there on the Bengals. River, whatever they call that stadium now. And,
you live there? What is the name of that stadium?
They changed it again. It was Paul Brown Stadium, and now I think they've changed it to, they sold it. They sold it to somebody. They did get money. I don't know if it's Provident Bank or I don't know what it's called. Farmers. I don't know what it is. It's some kind of large bank, insurance company, something. But that guy, like, he's got banged up on the field on, I guess it was Thursday. 4 days before he got banged up playing. He probably got banged up I don't know how long he's been playing Pro Bowl or college football. But he probably got banged up a couple times playing that. And, how many of these guys get banged up in high school? Like when they get a concussion or get banged up in, like, grade school. Like, like everyone's looking at this from the idea of,
it was only one hit.
He's had two concussions, and the reality is, dude, he might have had 5 of them in the past 15 years. We just,
I agree.
And, there was, I mean, like they take. I don't know a whole lot about it, and some places do. Like in Texas, they take that high school football really seriously.
Beyond serious.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. In Ohio, when I came to Cincinnati, they take that football here real serious. They take it real fucking serious, and I wouldn't be surprised if you got some of these high school kids getting banged up too like that.
Oh, you do. As a sports official, we have to be certified in concussion protocol. But I mean, we're basically lay people. I mean, if the guys or if the kid's eyes are spun around the back of his head, nah, you can't play. But other than that, but for a doctor to make a call, yeah, there was other pressures I'm sure that were brought down on them.
That's so. I didn't think about that. Yeah, because I guess does baseball have a concussion protocol?
Oh, very much so. I myself, I mean, I've taken where the catcher didn't even get his glove up, and I've taken like a 90-mile-an-hour fastball off the mask to where it literally knocked me out. And when they got me up, it's like I didn't even know where I was. And what you had mentioned earlier, this was maybe about 5 years ago. I took a foul ball. At least it tipped the foul ball. I had another concussion. You become more susceptible to them after your initial one. Yes, you do. Yes,
Wow.
you do.
So you were laying on the
I
ground,
mean,
and they're like, Danny, how many fingers am I holding up? And you look up and go, Barbara Streisand. And they're like, oh, fuck.
yeah, I didn't even know. I was out. I woke up on a gurney.
Oh, shit, really?
Oh, could you imagine? Even with equipment, you take a 90-mile-an-hour fastball directly to your mask. Trust me, it hurts.
Hey,
And
look,
when I woke,
look.
oh
I don't want to
man,
talk. I don't want to talk about the gay bar stuff. All right, I don't want to. This is a family-friendly podcast.
well, I'm not. It's like the mask hurts enough, but imagine getting hit in a cup with foul balls. Those are what hurt.
Have you ever had a cup get hit so hard it broke the cup?
Yes,
Damn. Oh,
yes,
oh, oh.
yes. Yeah, and it's okay when you get hit in the cup. It sounds like imagine taking a 2 by 12 plank, standing it up on end, and wrapping it with a 5 pound mallet. That's what it sounds like. And that's the sound. Imagine the feel on the other end of it. I'll tell
Mm.
you what, those little oysters, they were shelled and ready for service. It was like, hey, don't think that doesn't hurt. Yes, you have the cup on, but there's two forms of inertia. Yeah, you know that, don't you?
Object at
You
rest tend to stay at rest. Object in motion
that
tend to stay in motion. So yeah,
yes, that's
you ha-
right. Yes, there are. And and old Newton, he must have got hit in the sack at one time. That's why he had that theory of relativity. I'm telling you, it's hey, it's I took two chest shots last week from hard foul balls, but as an umpire, trust me, you buy the best equipment you can. But you don't go cheap when it comes to your safety. You don't go cheap. And you've probably never seen them, but there's a brand of umpire face mask now. You know what an umpire face mask look like,
I mean,
correct?
basically, yeah, I've seen them.
Well,
Yeah.
basically above each ear now, there's little springs. So if the foul ball hits you in the mask goes in, compresses the springs to
Wow.
stop a lot of the shock, and it comes back out.
You have a suspension system built into your
Yes,
mask now.
that's very good wording. That's exactly what it is. But me, I personally don't like them because it adds way too much weight to the mask.
Oh,
So I just wear the old traditional, brown pads, black mask, a really good brand, and it's saved my ass for a lot of years. But if you get hard enough in the right place, be it be it the sack, be it the face, be it the chest, whatever, those balls are going to do damage to you after time. Just like the quarterback, he had all his equipment on, and look at the beating he took.
yeah. He didn't even get like they really like it. Just he took his. He took it. I was looking at it. It wasn't like a helmet to helmet. I mean, I think there was a little bit of a helmet contact, but it was incidental. The lineman basically went after his legs and basically, pulled him down, and he basically got pulled over like a lever and got slammed from the legs. And that's how you're
Yep.
supposed to hit the quarterbacks. You're not supposed to hit them high.
No, you're
And
not, because you'll be flagged.
yeah, and it's like, I mean, it was literally like it wasn't even a borderline like, oh man, it wasn't like, oh man, my bad accident. It's like, oh, that was just, I don't know, like I don't know what's going to happen to sports, And look, in the office, we have young families and kids, and they start playing football, and I got to, sometimes I hear the stories. Sometimes the parents are pretty tense about it. They're like little Ray wants to, was going to start playing football, and mom,
Yeah.
especially mom, is like, I'm not fucking down with this.
Well, I don't know if I think I might have mentioned this before, and I'll say it again. In any youth sports, be it baseball, football, girls softball, soccer, whatever, the team mothers are 10 times worse for getting on officials than any father ever thought of being. The mothers are they're fucking nuts, I'll say it. They're nuts. They're nuts. Have you
There's,
ever asked? Have you ever asked the police about the calls that they get for harassment of officials, like I was mentioning to you?
I didn't get a chance to. I plan on doing that, but that's pretty. I mean, Well, look, there's a ancient theory about culture. I've never shared it all. I mean, I don't know if I. The theory goes something like this, and the theory is, modern society will make an argument like the modern liberal woman, or the we call them like the suburban liberal, will say things like, if the world were run by women, we wouldn't have wars, or we wouldn't have these problems. This real shallow shit. And people that have looked at this actually a little bit more intently have realized that even in societies where supposedly women are subservient to a male-dominated hierarchy, in many ways the women still have enormous power and influence as to how things operate and the motivations for doing things, and including things like warfare and behavior on the battlefield. And it's just like,
Well, I could tell you why sports moms act that way. It's very simple. 99% of the dads are working. It's the moms that write the checks, and it costs giant money to play travel sports. It really does. And it's the moms that runs these kids to practices. It's the moms that gets everything ready for the tournaments. It's the moms that do all the running around for everything. And they pay out so much money, and they put all this effort into little Ray, like you say, gonna do this. They actually feel a sense of entitlement. They really do. They really forget that it's a game for these kids.
you know what? I think a mother listening to you make that comment, her response would be, it's not entitlement. It's her son primarily, her child, and they're the ones that raise the children. They're the ones, like a little kid gets hurt. He doesn't normally scream daddy. He screams mommy.
Right.
And it's like it's their moms, protect. I mean, like, look in nature. Look, you're walking through the woods, okay, and you see a black bear, you see a cougar. It's like, okay, hold the fuck on. You walking through the woods and you see a mama bear or you see a mama cougar, with fucking little cubs. You're like, oh fuck,
Yeah, you're
because
fucked.
yeah, I mean that's nature, and that has to play some of it what you put up with on the ball fields.
It does, but it's it's gotten to a point though, as a sports official, that a lot of these parents, okay, maybe entitled is part of it, or this or that, but the lack of respect that we get anymore, it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous, Absolute. I've had mothers crawl up the backstop screaming and cussing at every word at me because I struck little Johnny out on strike 3 or whatever. They've lost their minds. They've lost their minds. It's bad. We had a 16-year-old umpire doing like 10-year-old little girls games last week. The parents followed the kid to the car, threatening him over balls and strikes.
The 16-year-old umpire.
Yes. Yeah.
Damn.
And the kid said, he was going to quit right there, but we finally talked him into staying because of the shortage of officials. And it's like, what kid wants to put up with that for 50 or 60 bucks?
Well, what 16-year-old kid has the cojones? Well, there's some. But what 16-year-old kid has the cojones to stand up to a 45-year-old man?
None. That's the problem.
Because nine times out of 10, unless the 45-year-old man is got beer muscles because he really weighs 100 pounds wet, like that 45-year-old man is going to destroy that 16-year-old kid. Like if it crosses the line, the threat of violence is always real, and if you actually have a credible threat behind that line, be like, motherfucker, I am sorry that you don't like that little Johnny got called out, but he's got to learn how to lose as well as learn how to win, and you best back the fuck off. Again, that's why I can't be an umpire, because I can't talk like you can't talk like that, can you?
I do. I don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. Can't fire me.
Well, yeah. What? Okay. There's such a shortage. Get somebody else. No, yeah. So I had to call time on my field, and I had to run out and literally stop these fathers. And the guy started getting Johnny muscles with me, and I said, it's really easy, dude. I said, 2 felonies. Take a swing at me. He looked at me. What do you mean? I said, 1, I'm a licensed sports official. That's 1 felony if you attack me. 2, I'm a senior citizen. Go ahead. If 5 to 7 is worth your swing, go ahead. Then he thought about it and he walked away, just MFing me most of the way.
It's
gotten that bad.
That's like, I generally don't do the pro sports. Like, we get invited sometimes to go to these, like to go to, corporate sponsors or corporate relationships with companies. Hey, come to the football stadium.
Yeah, we got a suite.
Or like primarily it's really baseball. I don't think we ever get invited.
Well, I'll go representing John 1911.
Yeah, so and it's like or go to these events or here's tickets. And I got to be honest with you. Like, I mean, look, okay, I'm 51, so I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm Billy Badass. Like I'm getting older, but like I lift weights and I have a 3rd-degree black belt, and I worked the fucking streets for 19 years. It's like, I mean, it ain't my first rodeo, and I see these videos that come out of these sporting events. Like there was one over the weekend. There's a report. I guess the I guess it would be football. Pittsburgh team, wherever that game was, somebody died. I guess fighting or getting thrown off or something with an escalator. Like they're just saying he fell off an escalator, and I'm like, yeah, dudes just don't fall off fucking escalators. That sounds like a fight. And then there's another one they had. This guy, these ushers. I mean, like these ushers, they look like they're in their 60s or maybe even early 70s. And this guy, he's sitting in the wrong seat. He's kind of a fat white guy, and turns out he's a firefighter, and and he's super mouthy, and he fucking elbows this fucking guy. Like, elbowed this almost 70-year-old man, the big old fight, and then the cops come, and it's like, I mean, I have no reason to expect that, anyone from the NFL or anyone what's baseball? MLB would ever listen to this podcast or listen to what I have to say, my opinions, because I'm generally they don't get money from me. I'm not somebody that partakes in their I'm not their customer, but I mean, between dudes getting fucking rocked on the field where they're going to be drinking out of a straw the rest of their life, people getting fucking stomped in the goddamn stands, now fucking killed, And then, you've got these players that run around, the ones that, they do this crazy shit and, they beat up women or, driving 150 miles an hour and smash their Porsches and the thing, causing these horrendous accidents or rear-ending people in their Corvettes. And if you're an executive at especially in the NFL, but I would say even the MLB, you need to fucking get some Judge Landis in your ass and start seriously start banning the fuck out of people. Like this firefighter that elbowed this fucking guy. Well, he'd be kicked out the rest of the season. Fuck you the rest of the season. My opinion would be that usher is a representative of me, the commissioner. That guy's banned for life, and I want him brought up on the serious criminal charges that we can rack and stack. Because dudes like me that would even possibly, I won't even consider going to some of these things. Because, I don't want to get into a fight in the fucking stands, because one of two things is going to happen. I'm either going to get my ass kicked, or I'm going to start to lose, and I'm going to start kicking somebody's ass. And either way, I'm going to get sued. Look at my fucking background, and I hurt somebody. Fuck you guys. Fuck your businesses. You want these stands full? Fuck you. You better get your shit cleaned up. And they even admit that there's a problem because now they're starting to do the family sections. Wow. We can go to the family-friendly section. Does the NFL have a family section?
I have no idea.
I know. And Major League Baseball has family sections, so you can bring your kids. Zone. And not have a bunch of people's. The way I talk. I realize I'm a problem. If I was in a family section, I'm like, fuck you, foul, filth, fucking filth. They'd throw me out of the family section, but at least I'm not stomping people. Oh, that guy's wearing a fucking jersey the wrong color. I'm gonna fucking throw him off an escalator.
And you're
putting people in fucking prison.
Yeah, you're talking about the fans. Imagine as the official, this year we operated nationwide, not just Midwest, nationwide at basically 50% of the umpires of what we had and sports officials last year. They're saying next year the shortage is going to be worse.
Yeah, because they don't want to put up with it.
And the median age is 65 years old as an umpire. Mm-hmm. So the guys are saying, I don't need this shit anymore. It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's like I'm sure the usher thing is the same thing.
Oh, yeah. No, who wants to put up with it? No one.
That guy that elbowed that usher, elbowed him in the face. I knocked a dude out once with a fucking elbow. And I didn't hit him that hard. It was an accident. It was in sparring. And, it's like this fucking guy elbowed this old man. He's an usher at the stadium because, one, he's retired, wants to have something to do, probably enjoys baseball, likes the access, and it's like, at this point, he's going to be like, fuck you, I can just watch this game at home. I don't need this shit. And these sports teams need to really fucking wake up here. And it's like, well, we're going to fucking, he's going to be out for the fucking season. Fuck you, bitch. Out for the season. It's like, this is no different. This is the exact same problem they have in Philadelphia. The exact same problem they have in Baltimore. The exact same problem they have with all those cities in Oregon and fucking Washington.
Chicago.
You let these Chicago, let these criminals, people run around like fucking crazy people, and you don't fucking put them away. There's people that have crazy in them, but you know what? If they see their buddy get fucking jammed up, well, you know what? It's not worth it. You got to fucking make examples of people.
I agree. I agree.
And everyone's so afraid of being like, you're fucking out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Oh, you can't fucking do that. Fuck you. You're fucking out of here.
Well, it's funny that's a good segue into politics. I think this election is going to be about, are people fed up with all this crime and all the other stuff and start voting the other way? I think they are. I really do. It's just like, did you see what happened to your buddy Fetterman over the weekend in his commercial?
No, my buddy
Okay.
Fetterman. Okay.
He ran a
Ouch.
commercial. He ran a commercial saying how when he was mayor, how he was tough on crime, this, that, and all the other stuff. The Republicans pulled out the actual numbers. Murders, rapes, arsons went up 64% under his term as mayor because he was nothing but a catch and release type person. He didn't want them prosecuted, this, that he was super soft on crime. Well, the Fetterman campaign pulled the ad after one day when it was countered with facts.
I heard, I didn't hear about the ad, but I heard that Fetterman's campaign office or whatever they have. I don't know if he's got a personal website for his political life, but there's a BLM section somewhere. They pulled all that down.
Well, yeah, because he's promising that if he's in, he's going to vote for no bail or cashless bail, this, that, and all the other thing, and watch crime rise. He's no better than the Kim Foxes or these other state's attorneys that are letting everyone go. And
Okay,
it's coming out now with
like,
real facts and
like
numbers.
cashless bail. It's like, okay, here's an example. All right, let's go back to the firefighter at the fucking baseball game. He's a firefighter. He's employed by the local city government of some government. He's, his roots in the city. He has he's a job. He, maybe he has a clean record. Cashless bail for that guy. I'd be like, fuck you. He elbowed. He got drunk in public and he fucking assaulted a senior citizen volunteer at an usher at some baseball game in front of all these fans, national television, the children. He's an embarrassment. I mean, it's like, mother, 50,000 fucking bond, bitch. It's like, okay, if you fucking, sign the title over to your house, you will let you out, but you're fucking getting bonded because you're a piece of shit. And, it's like, I'm just sick of it. Like, I don't give a fuck what your skin color is. I don't give a fuck what your political persuasion is. I don't give a fuck what you stick your dick in. But this bullshit, letting all these fucking people get away with it, cashless bond, cashless bail. Fuck you. I mean,
I think people are fed up with it. That way,
you hope.
Well, I would, yeah. Well,
look. I'm gonna make an argument here. Like I'm gonna be like, look, okay. When Donald Trump was president, all these fucking people tearing up all these cities, and it's like, if I was fucking president, I'd have fucking gone out there with the fucking axe handle. I mean, like, literally, they were across the street from the fucking White House at one point, trying to set a church on fucking fire.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, well, it's a city and the federal government, whatever. It's like, and I get, well, Mr. President, you're going to fall into their hands. You're gonna make this worse politically, and they're going to use it against you. At some point, when you're the boss, or you're the leader, or you're the person that's responsible, you have to look in the mirror and you have to be able to say there's right and wrong, and let's fucking go. Let's fucking roll. Come on. Martial law, send in the fucking National Guard, start shooting fucking people. I mean, like, this is all related. This is all related. The fucking guy, the firefighter at the fucking MLB baseball game, to me, is no different than the people that tried to set that church on fire in front of the White House. You're the same fucking people. Now, that guy at the baseball game, he, because he's a white firefighter, I'd hate to make it about race, but, let's just assume. I'll bet you he's a Trump supporter. He could be. Maybe he's not. But it still doesn't. But he could literally be a pro-gun Trump supporter. He could be listening to this podcast right now. Fuck you, dude. You're an embarrassment. You're an embarrassment to me. You're an embarrassment to your city. You're an embarrassment to your community. Go to fucking jail. And I'm sick of this bullshit.
Well, a lot of people are. Did you see DeSantis, what he said about looting?
Well, he mealy-mouthed it. We shoot.
Yeah.
You loot,
But
we
at least
shoot.
he said it on record. He goes, "We are a Second Amendment state. You don't know what's around that corner if you go to
Hmm.
loot somebody's house."
Yeah,
In other words, uh, yeah. Well, Florida is very pro Second Amendment.
well, okay, yeah, you know what, and it's fine, and I get it, and so he probably sat, and they had to sit around and have a policy position, and so here, but I heard him say that. I got to be honest with you, I thought it was a little mealy mouthed. Be
But he
honest
said
with you.
it
He said,
more
you know,
so than a lot of
he
other people would
oh
say.
he kind of said it. He kind of said it.
Oh,
No, 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 no. Hold back the fuck up. No,
you're
no,
getting into
no.
semantics here.
No, no, semantics my ass, okay? Governor
Okay, well,
Marky
your
of
ass is
fucking
full of semantics,
Governor
but go ahead.
Marky of fucking Florida comes up to the fucking podium, and I'd be like, rioters will be rearrested, looters and violent looters will be shot. Period. And you know why he didn't say that? He didn't say that because what'll happen is some fucking asshole with a fucking gun will go out and shoot somebody and claim it'll be some revenge thing or something personal and try to claim
That
he's
he was
fucking
looting,
looting.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, well, you know what? I'm sorry that the fucking firefighter in the fucking stands at the Major League Baseball game is a fucking asshole. And I'm sorry that there's some guy out there that you don't even know who he is yet, that you're afraid that he's going to be a fucking asshole and he's going to try to use my statement as a reason to commit murder. Well, here's the thing. He committed the fucking murder. I didn't commit the fucking murder. I didn't encourage the murder. I'm trying to keep law and order, and that guy that goes out and does something stupid in the name of, quote, I shot him because he was rioting, well, guess what? You get to go to fucking jail with the goddamn firefighter. You know, it's like, it's called elite panic. All these elite people are like, we can't tell people the truth because we're afraid how they're going to react. We can't tell people that they can shoot looters because we're afraid they're going to shoot looters. And how we can't trust the people. Dude, DeSantis, look, I support DeSantis. If he gets a nomination, I will vote for DeSantis. But don't come at me and tell me that DeSantis came at that like he fucking balls out fucking with his fucking hard on coming for the looters. He was kind of like, well, you know, we're a Second Amendment state, and you know what that means, and you don't know what's around the corner.
It was a read between the lines.
And also, you know, the way he stated that comment, it wasn't like, we're going to be patrolling and we catch you looting, somebody with a badge and a gun and a rifle is going to gun your ass down. He didn't say that. He's like, you know, some homeowner might fucking catch you and shoot you. Yeah. I mean, look, come on. Look. Okay, look. DeSantis is cool. We get it. He's also a politician. He ain't Genghis fucking Khan. All right? Come on. Come on. Come on. Don't be blinded by politics that much.
No, I'm not. All I mentioned to you was, did you see his statement?
Yeah,
You know?
it was fucking mealy mouthed.
All right. I think it was a read between the lines, you know, but he had to.
You're saying the same thing.
All right.
It's a read between the lines.
It's my semantics turn now.
What does it depends on what your definition of is. You're the guy that would have been screaming about Bill Clinton. You would have been screaming about Bill Clinton making that statement. And now you're like, well, you know, read between the lines.
Yeah, well, speaking of DeSantis in Florida, wasn't that hurricane horrible? As you know, I have a relative that lost everything.
Yeah, we were supposed to. We're a little bit behind on podcasts, and we were supposed to do one late last week, but Danny had to deal with some personal issues because his family's been greatly affected by.
Yes.
Can I say the city?
Yeah, go ahead.
Fort Myers.
And I'm arguing with my family member. They're driving me crazy. They want to get in the car and go down there and see what they can salvage, even though there's not much. I said, no, you have to be insane. I said, there was 5 feet of water that went through your properties. The refrigerator from the kitchen ended up on the front porch. That's how much the force of the water, things like that. Everything totally devastated. And I said, you don't know what was carried in that water. Not only disease, acids, this, that, every other thing. I said, where she lives, they just want to bulldoze the entire subdivision up into a pile and then cart it off to a landfill. I said, you don't. So I'm arguing with them. You don't even want to step foot into that thing. Then I'm getting the argument, well, mementos or this or that. I said, no, mementos are shark shit. They probably ate it by now. And, it's just, what can you say?
You bring up a good point that a lot of people don't, that have never been through a lot of like flooding in urban areas, they don't really understand. It's not just the water, it's everything that's in the water. Because
Correct.
like if a city's flooded, I don't care where it is, if a city's flooded, that water is full of the sewer systems, fuel from vehicles, oil from vehicles, chemicals from every industrial plant that got flooded. If those things failed or seals failed,
Which they did.
Chemicals and shit that's in everybody's garages. Shit stored
acids, all the other stuff.
Yeah, it's like 9/11. All these first responders and people that got horrendously sick from I don't know what they called that. Did they call it 9/11 syndrome or Ground Zero syndrome? But like all that shit was pulverized and put in the air, and then it landed everywhere, and you're walking on. It's not just cement. It's asbestos. It's tar. It's ink from printers. It's gasoline from, benzene in the gasoline. It's the sewage from all the bathrooms. And it's all atomized, and it's
right. And where it settles, say your clothes you had in your dresser, you're going to bring those clothes home and wash them? No, you don't want no part of anything. But here's the worst part of what I didn't know. Something like 80% of, there's a boatload of retirees down in Florida.
Yeah.
But something like 80% of these people that lived in these like double wide parks and this and that and senior centers, they don't own the land. We'll say the trailer park does. You can only get what you have inside your double wide for insurance. On the structure itself, because you don't own the land, you cannot get insurance for the unit itself.
Well, can't you? You can get rent. You would get renter's insurance. You get renters like a renter's insurance for your contents, and then wouldn't your prefab whatever that thing is? Couldn't you get that through auto insurance? Carry a policy that way?
No, because you had it parked on a rented land. Something about the law or this or that or however it works, but people that I were talking to were saying, no, we lost the structure itself, and if we had contents insurance, that's all we can get.
Well, I mean, hey, look, if nothing else, don't worry because, Kamala Harris came out and said that the minorities and disenfranchised people, or whatever her comment was, they're going to get priority for federal funds. So, hashtag not helpful.
Well, supposedly the Biden administration is promising to people that lost everything something upwards of $78,000 per family that lost everything for structures or this or that. My question is, I didn't see the fine print. Is that a no-interest loan, or is it a gift from the government if you prove loss?
I don't know. I don't know how that FEMA stuff works.
Either do I. The FEMA shit is insane. It's insane.
Well, it's interesting if you look at the photographs, and every time there's a I remember when the hurricane that hit and wiped out Tyndall Air Force Base, but if you look at when a hurricane hits, and if you look at coverage, generally the media, what they'll do is they'll zoom in on an area of a lot of destruction, and occasionally they'll catch an image because they want to show something, but in the corner they can't crop it out. There'll be like a newer house standing there. And, I don't live in Florida, but I've learned that I guess modern building standards have gotten so good in Florida, like that they make you build the houses elevated. Basically, your garage is always in a lower level, and basically the house is on stilts. And then it's got I don't know, like 100 and some mile an hour roof. It's got hurricane 100 some mile an hour windows, and like these probably buildings built within the last 10 years, they don't even look like they've been touched. Now they may have been flooded, but like literally there's not even I remember a guy, it was near the Tyndall Air Force Base one, and he had all around him, this made the news, there was all around him, everything was wiped out. Like there's a photograph, and his house, he just built it. Like the week before, like we're done. And this thing hit, and he said, well, his house was standing there. From the sky, it looked like it was perfectly fine. He went and checked his property. He's like, yeah, I have a broken shutter.
Wow.
And it's like, yeah, because the new stuff they built, it's apparently they can build it to these really high levels. Even like the wind, and like they don't rip the roofs off and stuff, which, once you rip the roof off, the whole building's compromised at that point. And so that's a key element. I don't know how they do that, but
yeah, it's pretty crazy. Well, I sent you the pictures of the water flowing through our living room.
Yeah,
that was insane, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's not. I'm not going to publish that, but yeah,
no.
I saw that.
But that's how bad it was.
Yeah. Did you see the pictures of the McLaren? I think it was a P1, the orange car that was floating.
Yes,
in Naples?
yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Guy apparently just took possession of that, and now I've got more pictures of. Do you remember a car? What they were called? Were they called not the Roadrunner? What were they called?
GTX?
No, maybe they were called Roadrunners. And so basically, they were like, and I've talked about them on pod before because there was an auction for one. There's a photograph of two of these cars. Huh?
Oh, I want to say the Super Bee, but it was
Superbird.
Yeah, Superbird.
The Superbird. There's two Superbirds in front.
I've seen that.
Oh, God. And like one of them's upside down, and it's like, if those are real Superbirds, if those are 100% full real Superbirds, if they were complete Superbirds, each one of those cars is worth over $1 million. If they're not replicas, or they're not, rebodies, right, or if they're 100%, it's like, oh my God. Like, it's like, and it's salt water. Like, those cars are just, oh my God. Like,
all I can say is the garage is on a very high hill where the Lambo's parked.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. Nothing's getting there. You have to take the hill up to the garage to get there.
Yeah. So
that's all good.
Prayers for the people in Florida.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's horrible.
Did you was that you that sent me that somebody had a FTF and they cleared it the way you showed on video?
Somebody had sent somebody had sent, I did mention it on Solo Podcast, somebody was firing, I think it was one of these Springfield Prodigy guns, and he got jammed up, it was locked up, and the whole, hold it with your support hand and ram your hand into it. Just make sure you don't drop the gun. He says it saved the day. And, that kind of stuff really, makes me feel good. And, I'm going to say this again, because some of the 1911 guys are super douchebags. And I hate to say this, but I'm not, I'm right. And, it's like you show this thing, and then all these guys show up, and they're like, how the fuck can you not know that? You fucking more. Like, they're better than you because they know something you don't. And my position is, how would they know that if no one ever showed it to them? If they didn't go through formal training, like actual structured training where it was a pass-fail, and if you failed, you couldn't proceed on in life. If you didn't get professional training to do this stuff, and you had to do it for the record, and just grandpa was showing you stuff, and a lot of people have never had professional training. Most of what they know is what they learned from their parents, or if they took a CCW class. Now with the internet, we're in a whole brave new world, but like that whole trick when I popped that with my strong hand and to break open a locked up gun, I remember specifically the day that I was instructed on how to do that by an instructor, and I was standing in a class of 30 other people. It's like Yeah, I mean,
Very knowledge, very worthwhile having that knowledge.
I hate that gotcha stuff. I hate that, like, because it's borderline gatekeeping. People do this. So I know shit that you don't know, so you're a fucking idiot. It's like, you're
Yeah,
a
like
fucking
me with the
asshole.
tractor.
It's like, yeah, I still don't have my tractor back. I'm hoping to get it. I'm hoping to get. Maybe they'll call tomorrow. So it's taken forever. So
I told you it's gonna take a while.
they sent me pictures of it last week inside the cab. They'd cracked it apart. They had the cab apart, and they're putting in the electronics.
Oh,
So
really?
it can't be sitting too long because it's going to be backing up other work. So speaking of,
go
ahead. No, what are you saying?
Well, tractor people, they live on their own clocks.
Man, you're not kidding. I take a vehicle in for service. It's like boom, boom, lickety split, wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. And the bad thing with the tractor thing, with what they're doing now, and it's it's far, it's like 2 states away almost. Is I thought it was imminent that they were going to bring it back the next day, and I owed them like it was an $8,000 job. I owed them $6,000 because I gave them $2,000 to order some parts. And so, they were like, we have to have a wire before we drive this thing all the way back up to the John 1911 range. I'm like, no problem. Bam, sent them $6,000. And now here we are. It's a week. Is it a week to no?
No,
It's 2 weeks because I was out of town. 2 weeks later,
yeah, we both were out of town.
And they are paid in full, and I still don't have that tractor.
We got your money.
You were fucking right, man. These fucking tractor guys.
I told you.
I mean, they move like ushers at the MLB stadium. It's like they're slow as fucking molasses. So, let me get some industry. Let me get some industry stuff in. I want to tell you a few stories, a couple things, and a couple of these you're not going to know. The first one is an old friend, acquaintance. I know this person. I'm not saying we're close friends. We definitely know who each other are. We've known each other for a long time. Dave Spaulding. Dave Spaulding is a gun writer for many of the gun magazines. He lives up in basically Dayton, Ohio. Miami's bird, probably. And I'm not going to say where. But anyway, he basically lives in Dayton. He's written, if you were a person that read gun magazines all through the let me start writing gun. Maybe he might have started in the 80s. Maybe in the mid 80s. Wrote for, Guns and Weapons for Law Enforcement. Wrote for a lot of these Harris publications. Dave Spaulding, police officer. I think he's a narc. He definitely was on a drug task force because I just know that. And I don't know if he was ever a SWAT officer. He might have been a SWAT guy. I don't know if Dave was ever a SWAT guy. But he's a prolific gun writer and trainer. Primarily, he's a handgun guy. He's a cop. He teaches handguns. As a matter of fact, his company was called Handgun Combatives. And Dave has been, every time I'm around Dave, Dave has been threatening to me for close to 14 years now that he's going to retire. I'm going to retire, so you better get the last year. And I've been hearing this. I knew eventually it was going to come. Dave officially held his last Handgun Combatives course. I think it was held in Colorado. It wasn't even here in Ohio. And he has announced and he said his farewells, and he has hung it up. He is officially retired. He's actually his LLC. His LLC. He is. He's even like he's not kidding. Like he's going to disband the LLC. He's going to take it offline. He's going to keep a store open. I think his son-in-law and daughter kind of run. If they sell patches or a couple things, but Dave Spaulding is one of the greats. And I think in a lot of ways, people today I don't think Dave Spaulding has as big of a name as he should, because he's a thinker, and he's a thinker, but he's also a doer. But the nice thing about Dave Spaulding is he never stepped out of his lane. And what I mean by that is Dave was never worried about, like when the fads changed. We went from a time period before 9/11 that the most experienced gunfighters in America were almost universally all police officers. And this is going to seem strange today, because a lot of kids today under 30, like the most revered and respected and well-known trainers nationally are all Spec Ops, Delta, SEAL, Space Shuttle, Door Gunner, GWAT dudes, and Dave never felt the need to try to adjust to the to the changing market of of where the business was going. He's a handgun guy. And, he's a CCW and law enforcement handgun guy. And he always stayed with that. That's really, that's my area. And he never taught, I don't think Dave ever taught a rifle class. Not that he didn't know how to run a rifle or run ARs or anything, but he's like, he says, my area of expertise is handguns. He says, I can run a rifle, but he says, if you want to learn AR rifle stuff, go to these fucking GWAT guys, because their whole career was rifle. He's like, my career was primarily handgun. And I always respected Dave for that. And I think a lot of Dave, and, Dave may occasionally do some private training with some friends or maybe do something local just for himself, but his business is gone. He is closed. Dave's got to be pushing 70 now. He's late 60s. And I wish Dave the best. He's one of the great ones. He's officially retired, but if you somehow get a chance to follow his writings or somehow even cross paths with Dave Spaulding, don't pass it up. He's definitely worth your time. Regards to my old friend Dave Spaulding on his well-earned retirement. So anyway, yeah, that's So wish best to Dave and
happy retirement.
Happy retirement. So Danny, have you ever heard about Glock? Have we talked about on this podcast Glock making a rifle, making an AR-15?
Yes,
we have.
I'm not a Glock fanboy whatsoever, but you can go through with it. I do not like Glocks.
That's fine. No, but we've talked about the Glock rifle, right? There's been rumors of a Glock rifle for years, and we've talked about it. And I think I've mentioned this on pod. Well, I mentioned it because apparently over the weekend, pictures have emerged out of the United Kingdom. Glock has an AR-15 looking gun that has currently been submitted for some kind of trials with somebody in the United Kingdom. I would assume that's a military unit. Could be law enforcement. I don't know. But some people smarter than me and know a lot more about Glock's patents and the specifications, the RFP for this particular contract have gone through, and they're looking at this gun and they're like, this gun is not a Photoshop. This is a real Glock rifle. And there's been rumors of Glock rifles for, 15 years at least. And the thing is, I've never liked to talk because, everyone's like the pictures of a Glock rifle. There's a Glock rifle and people can't, you can't prove it or people disprove it. It never happens. And so I don't like to talk about it because, I've never seen one, but and
there's already companies making the aftermarket mags for them.
Yeah. I think this it's a 5.56 caliber gun, but no, I remember like where I used to work. There was a person I worked with. He was you know what? I'm not going to say because you figure him out. So anyway, he ended up going to. He's a 1911 guy. Ended up going to go work for Glock, and we were talking one day, and he goes, and this was. This was at least 10 years, minimum 10 years ago we had this conversation. If not 12 or longer. But he's like, Glock has a rifle. He's like, it's in 5.56, and he's like, I fired it. And I'm like, what is it? He wouldn't really go into it, but he's like, yeah, they'd absolutely have a rifle because I fired it. They wanted his opinion on it. And he didn't say it was an AR-15, but he wouldn't say it wasn't an AR-15. And, this guy, I know this guy. I knew this guy for a long time. I knew him professionally, I knew him personally. He would not, there's no reason why he would tell me in private, that he would lie. And so, I knew from the horse's mouth that Glock was messing with a rifle. I knew this over a decade ago. Like, whether that was going to ever see the light of day, that doesn't matter. But,
it's too much of a market not to be in.
Well, you know what? You can make it. Yeah, you're right. And there's two schools of thought. You can make the argument. Why would you make an AR? There's so many people that make ARs right now. It's like, come on, what are you doing? Like, it's a red ocean. It's saturated market. Well, the reality is, Glock. They sell to all around the world, governments and militaries, but in the United States in particular, and I think a lot of places around the world, Glock sells handguns to police departments, or we'll call them constabularies, law enforcement agencies, whatever, National Guardia, all these different things around the world. And particularly in the United States, when a jurisdiction is taking bids, on replacement guns for their departments, who has a better shot? Glock can give you a handgun with armoring packages and whatever. Glock will take your guns in trade. And the only reason in Glock, what they would do, Glock would even give a better value on trade-in guns than their competition, because Glock was always lacking, because Smith & Wesson would come in behind them and be like, Smith & Wesson, we can give you handguns for your department. We can give you AR-15s for your department. We can sell you, if you want an approved little pocket pistol, J-frame little revolver that somebody to wear, we got those guns. And we can even subcontract and maybe even get you some shotguns. And, it's a total package. And, Glock that's always been the weakness in Glock's law enforcement business. And gun guys don't really see that, because they see how successful Glock has been. And, if you're in business, or how organizations procure firearms, like police departments are not gun enthusiasts. They're like, we need, department need guns certified, guns safe, guns we can get insured, guns that people can operate. And it's like, oh, Glock, or whatever the gun is, if they can say, yeah, all the guns, so all the officers, even guns for like our tactical officers, yep, all the guns, boom, you get the fucking contract. Because the people that are paying for these contracts want to move on, because they want to go and buy salt trucks for your department, Danny. You know what I mean? Or they want to buy, they got to negotiate, they don't want to fuck with this. They're like, oh, an all-in-one package and it's only X amount? Well, yeah, okay, this washes out. Like, this is great. So, yeah.
One-stop shopping.
Yeah, will Glock ever sell an AR-15 to the public of the United States? I doubt it. Will Glock ever start, if Glock can get an international military unit, or an international, I'll use the word constabulary again, to pick up their rifle, that will give them the creds and kudos to start leveraging that. Like LMT did that, Lewis Machine and Tool did that with New Zealand, or like Estonia. Like, the Estonian military is pick the LMT AR-15 whatever gun. And, if Glock can do that, Glock can come in. They will start offering pistols with a rifle for law enforcement use, I think, in the United States. I think they will. I think that's coming. So,
well, if they do, that's good for them. I had that bad experience with a Glock, and I just don't care for them. That's my personal opinion on it.
Yeah,
it's not a one-size-fits-all in the gun market, as you well know. What are you comfortable with?
It's true. You're a civilian, and you have more abilities to do things and like things, and you can add like look, I like Blaser rifles, but they have a high fiddle factor. You change these calibers, change all these parts, interchangeable bolt heads. There's a lot that can get screwed up. Would I advocate giving Blaser rifles to a large unit that's just, they need guns? Like, no, because they would fuck them up. There's the chances they would fuck them up. And it's like, if I was the godchild of some little, city somewhere, and, even as a gun guy like myself, John 1911, we love 1911s. And it's like, okay, we have a 60 person department or a 100-person department, not that large of a department. And it's like, well, I would be looking at all of the officers in total, and I would be making judgments. And I'd be like, I like my officers. They do a good job. We can always do a better job. We can always strive. But do I trust these fools to take care of a high-maintenance fiddle-factor gun like a 1911? Or do I just give them all Glocks so I don't have to worry about having issues in the future or liability problems when a gun goes bang when it shouldn't, or a gun doesn't go bang when it should? And there's an argument to be made, even by a gun guy like me, y'all motherfuckers are getting Glocks. Because, you don't even fucking hardly shoot. You don't hardly clean your shit. You don't take care of your shit. And it's like, or the split the baby is what you do is you say, our default gun is a Glock. You get the Glock 17. Good for you. If you're an enthusiast and you want to go pick up a X gun, we will let you come in and you got to come in and qualify. You got to tell us what the gun is. You buy it yourself. You shoot it, pass quals, let us look at it, make sure it's not some piece of crap gun or we don't think it's not appropriate for some reason, and then we will let you individually carry this gun. But, those are the exceptions, because the Glock is just, it's a gun for everybody that needs guns, but they're not gun guys.
Right. No, that's a good point. In fact, it's ironic you mentioned that. I was just talking to a couple guys from a smaller department around here last week. They still carry Beretta 92s.
Sure they do. And why do
That's
they
what they're happy with.
And you know why they carry a Beretta 92s? Because that's what the military carried, and they were like, it's good enough for the Army, it's good enough for me.
Right. Well, plus they're both ex-military.
Yeah.
I mean, and other guys on their department have Glocks. One has, an M&P. It's what they're comfortable with. But these guys still swear by their 92s.
Well, that's what
they love them.
But here's the thing. So that's an example of a department that lets people individually do stuff as opposed to certified duty guns. Those are. But the thing is, those guys that maybe they spent their military career shooting the 92, qualifying with the 92, carrying the 92, is they rotate out, and in 10 years or 12 years, you're going to see new generations of officers that aren't gun guys or don't have a lot of pistol experience, and they spent their entire career in the military shooting the Beretta or shooting the SIG P320, which is the M17 M18. Those guys are going to turn around. They're going to be like, I want the SIG.
Right, they're going to carry SIGs.
Yeah, they're going to carry the SIG, because that's what they know. And it's like, and you can't fault them for that. I mean, that's human.
No, especially if you shoot better. I shoot better with a high point. Maybe the guy wants a high point. Who knows?
Well, you still have to meet the minimum standards by the command staff. And
but I could also nail 2x4s.
And your department's armorer and your department's chief of firearms instruction.
Yeah, I get it. What else was I gonna? I had.
Oh, did you? I sent you a story. Speaking of the Glocks and the M16’s or the Glock AR-15, did I send you the story of the people that won the government auction for empty crates?
Yes, and there was a crate full of M16’s.
Oh, yeah, and it's like they called the ATF, and that's the right thing to do. Look, listen to me.
I was wondering about that. Did they have to give those back?
Mr. Law and Order over here is like, fuck you, put you motherfuckers in jail, no bail, and I'm literally also, because hypocrisy is the what is it? Hypocrisy is the tribute that vice pays to virtue, and here is my hypocrisy. So yes, because of the Hughes Amendment and National Firearms Act, those guns, they belong to the government. They weren't surplused out. Once a machine gun, always a machine gun. They could have been made if they were made after 1986. And I see. Okay, so here's the thing. So it's like, all right. If you're listening to this podcast, you're a gun guy, and you got to ask yourself a question. It's like, these people, let me set this up. Defense Logistics Agency will surplus out equipment, and DLA is never considered a sexy organization because it's, they've got water stored everywhere, and they've got ammo, and they've got fuel, and they've got trucks, and they've got computers, and they've got tents, and they've got stretchers. Like anything you can possibly think of, the DLA has stashed all around the world, definitely in the U.S., and they rotate stuff in, rotate stuff out, put it on rows, put it back in storage, and then stuff ages out. They surplus it out through these government auctions. And so these people, and we've, over here, John1911, we have participated in government auctions and bought things. We look for vehicles all the time for the range. And these people bought these, they were, I don't know, they looked like probably 5 feet long by 4 feet long.
Unmarked crates.
Yeah, these crates. I don't know if they got 3 of them or if they got 10 of them. But, they come in, you get a pallet of them, whatever it is. And, if you get them for X amount of dollars and then you break it up per price and maybe you sell them at a flea market or if you have an Army surplus store, that's where all this stuff comes from. And, they bought these boxes because they're watertight, whatever, Army boxes or whatever. And they might have even been, quote, rifle boxes. And they're made out of plastic. They're not wood, and they're transportation storage crates. And they opened up one of the crates of the many that they had, and there was racks of full length, 20-inch long. I don't know if they were A4s or if they were A1s, but you could tell they were full length. The picture that I saw, M16's, carry handle M16's, and 20-inch barrels, as far as I could tell, and I don't even know if they were new or used. I couldn't tell. And I don't know how many come in a box, but it wasn't like 2 or 3 laying in there. It was a full crate. And, in the process of this getting moved, somebody forgot to empty out one of these crates, and it got lost in the pile of crates, and then the crates got kicked out because, again, you end up, this stuff is cleared for civilian sales. Nobody's going to go through. Let me open up these 80 boxes one more time that someone already opened up. You know what I mean? You're like, yeah, get them the fuck out of here. And they opened up, and it was M16's. And the question is, do you keep them or do you give them back? Watch your microphone,
You can't arrest
Danny.
me. I got a receipt. We had to get one in.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't arrest me. I have a receipt for these.
Well, I don't know if you could be arrested, but it's like, technically possession of them is a crime.
But you didn't know what you were getting.
Well, but still, possession of the, ignorance of the law isn't a defense. So
yeah, but you have a big S on your chest, and you could see what's through there with your laser vision. No,
wait a minute. Are you saying they should be arrested, or are you making the argument they should get the keep?
No. What I'm saying is that when the cops came, even the thought of the threat of the arrest over nothing you had any control of is ludicrous.
Well, but do you think they could? Do you think they should get to keep them?
Possession is 9/10 of the law.
You'd be my kind of lawyer. So look here. So okay, look. I'm a law and order guy, but look, everybody's got their price.
Oh, they could have good prices for a whole crate full.
No, yeah. So no. Well, but here's the thing. It's like, okay. So look, if I would have to give them back because I wouldn't want to fucking have my house blow up with the fucking federal SWAT team, kicking into doors and we lose everything. However, if as a hypothetical conversation, here is how I would suggest if you were inclined, and I'm not saying you do this, but here's what you do. This is my thought about this. Here's what you do. So you take the crates. You usually have to show up somewhere. They don't ship them to you. You have to pick them up. So you right. We've had to go on to military bases, or they could be at a DLA warehouse somewhere, which could be on a reservation of a military base. But not always. But so they load them up, and you bring them back to wherever you have them. Okay, whether you bring them into your house, into your garage, or whether you do this as a business and you have a warehouse or you store them. Because you got these crates, you're like, I'm going to list them on Facebook, or I'm going to list them on eBay for $30 a piece or whatever. And what I would do is if I cracked open one of the crates and I was like, holy shit, there's guns in here. If you were inclined to not, I'm not advocating this. What I would do, your best bet would be to be like, okay, look and be like, okay, close up the crate, crack open the other crates, and be like, okay, is there anything in those crates? All right, so there's guns in here. All right, I'm not saying this is right. I'm gonna stop giving my disclaimer so the story can go. What you would do is I would crack open the crate, like, oh fuck. Then I was like, okay, what else am I dealing with here? I don't know if you got 3 crates or you got 50 of them. Crack open all the crates, and all of a sudden my plan for selling the crates would immediately change. And I would say to myself, these crates need to sit in the corner. Probably for a year or maybe 2. Just, maybe put the one with the guns in the bottom. Don't even like fondle it or whatever. Put the other, stack a bunch of other crates with it and just leave it in the corner. Give it a year. And then maybe after a year, give it another year. And just see if anybody comes around looking. Because if they're like, yeah, we're tracking this crate number, whatever, there might be something issue. And you're like, I don't know, I bought crates 3 years ago. And they're like, where's the crate? And you're like, I don't know, it's in the corner of my warehouse. And if they were to come over 2 years later and like they crack it open and you're like, I had no idea those were in there. And okay, no harm, no foul. But if you're inclined, let them, I thought on the streets, they would call this letting them cool off. Yeah, let them
Yeah,
cool.
they're hot.
Yeah, they're hot right now. Let them cool off and just see what happens. And then what I would do is, all I remember is, if you play in the NFA game, if you play in the National Firearms Registry, which is the machine gun game, you will sometimes see for sale some guns that should not be available to you. Okay, for whatever reason. Like, you're like, this gun's too new. This gun has government markings on it. Whatever. But what happened was, because, they passed the 1934 National Firearms Act, which is you got to register machine guns and pay your tax stamp. And a lot of people were like, fuck you, I ain't doing that. My gun was legal yesterday. I'm not giving you money to keep it today. Fuck you. Like, in the 30s, people didn't, and then, people brought stuff home from World War II. And they were like, fuck you, I'm not even fucking, it's like, I'm not, I live in Iowa. We don't have we don't have the internet. The government's not here, and I've got it, and it's my war trophy, and I keep it in my attic, and people find Grandpa's gun, and it's a machine gun. It was never registered. You hear these stories, and what's happened is there's been very few, but there have been government amnesties where the government says, like they did one in 68, and I think they did one in 86. Because they closed down the registry in 86. And they said, you could no more new guns. And they were like, if you have a machine gun that's not registered, I think they did one in 86. If you have a machine gun that's not registered, bring it in. You will not be charged. You will get the gun. You will keep the gun. We're going to put it on paper. Because the goal was, if the goal is to register the machine guns because you feel it's better for society, I'm not advocating for the NFA, but the goal is the goal of the NFA to, if the goal of the NFA is to make sure it's up to date and current and like every machine gun is registered, because that's your goal, you have to have amnesties. Because why would you want to have someone out there with a gun that's not registered, hidden away in their attic? If your job is to administer NFA, you would advocate for, look, just bring it the fuck in. You're not going to be in trouble. Pay the $200 tax stamp. You can keep the gun. You're not going to be charged. And Danny, there's been a couple guns that I've seen. I've seen a North Korean or Chinese AK-47 that is transferred on the it was a Vietnam bringback, and it was its first sale, and it's registered on the NFA, which means it's transferable to you or me as long as you can pay the money and you live someplace where it's legal to have it, and it's got amnesty papers, and so it's 100% legal. Danny, there is at least, and I've heard this from multiple sources, there is at least one USGI marked M16A1 machine gun, triangular handguards, 20 like the Vietnam era M16, right? You see them in all the movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the carry handle.
Yeah, the carry handle and the triangular cheap plastic handguard. There is one of those guns for sure that's U.S. government marked as U.S. government property, machine gun, and it's legal to own it and transfer it. Because during the amnesty, a guy brought the gun in, registered for the amnesty, got to keep the gun, get the license to own the machine gun, and the cherry on top, the guy that brought the machine gun in was a felon.
Really?
And they're like, fuck. And this felon, he's got a felony charge of something. He's got this M16A1 legally because he brought it in during an I don't know if he stole it when he was in the military. Doesn't matter. Amnesty, a true amnesty is a true amnesty.
Yeah, you can't have particulars.
If you want, that's the only way the amnesty works. If your goal is to make sure the NFA is accurate, the list is accurate, you got to offer amnesties. So I'm saying that to say this. I'd store them bitches away. I wouldn't touch them. Let them cool off. Maybe when you feel like they're cooled off, you go in there and look at them a little bit and just sit and wait for an amnesty. I would always have them set up in a way that if for some reason it was discovered, you could be like, I had no idea that I had those in the corner with the other cases. We just never opened them.
And how hard would it be for you not to ever take one out to the range and just try one of them?
Well, that would be extremely difficult.
I know. That would be like putting candy, in front of a diabetic.
The real answer to that story is, the truth is, there's guns like that all the time. There are hidden machine guns that have never been registered sitting around in people's homes that they don't ever shoot. They don't ever take them out. I've heard even some people might take them apart and keep them in pieces, because they never registered them or they came into them.
Right.
I know. How do I say this? I know a person. I've never seen this gun. I don't know this person anymore, who told me back when he was working in the jurisdiction where he worked and lived, that an old woman showed up one day where he was working and said, my husband died. I don't want his guns anymore. Will you please take these? And they took the guns, and one of the guns, I've never seen it, so I wouldn't know, but I've heard one of the guns might have been an MP, a German MP40 9mm subgun. And
really?
This gun was brought in probably,
from the war?
No, but that came home during the war, after World War II, but this gun was kind of brought into this person sometime in the 70s or the 80s. And I don't know when, but the story is this person was like, holy shit. They took it, they broke it up into pieces, and they hid the pieces around their house where it still sits to this day. That's the story. I don't know this person anymore. I used to know this person. I don't know where it is. I don't know if it's true. I've never seen it. It's a story that was told. And this kind of stuff sits around everywhere.
Yeah, it does. It's all over the country.
Like we had a guy reach out once, and I'll tell the story. I think I may have hinted around. We had a guy reach out one time, and he's like, "Hey, man," he was in a different state. He wasn't here, far away, and he's like, "Hey, man, a buddy of mine died, and he was a gun guy, and he said I could have stuff, and I said I wanted this particular gun, and it was a French gun, and it was fully automatic." And the guy's like, "If you take that gun, don't ever do anything with it because I think it's not papered and you could get in trouble." And he's like, "I need to destroy it." And the guy's like, "Don't destroy it." And so this person took the gun because he didn't want the guy to destroy it. It was given to him. And the original owner subsequently passed away. And then this person who took the gun kept the gun hidden away for, I don't know, a decade or longer. And then that person reached out to us and was like, "Hey, man, I follow what you guys do." And I'm telling this story now because it's all over with. It's like, "Hey, man, I follow what you guys do. I have this gun. I know you guys have talked about this. I don't know what the laws are. I don't want to get in trouble." You know, the person was I don't want to say anything about the person. And, you know, didn't know what to do. And he didn't want to destroy it. And he was like, could you guys take it in the armory? And I was like, "Well, we can't take it in the armory because of reasons." And so I was like, "All right, let me see if we can't get this." And this is where I didn't know what the law was exactly. And I was like, well, you know, like post-dealer samples. I was like, maybe we can get it on some FFL manufacturer's books as a post-dealer sample. And people that know how this works right now are screaming, "No, you can't do it." Well, I was like, I didn't know. So I started calling around, privately contacting some 07s that I know, various around the country. And, you know, it's like, "Can you take this?" They're like, "It's out of state. We could, but technically, you know, just so you know," and like all this, like, "Okay, well, you're in a different state anyway." So I even found the place where it was like, if it's in the state where this person is located, I contacted a very well-known 07 in this state, and they were like, "We can't take it legally. Once a machine gun, always a machine gun. We have to build them up as post-dealer samples. We can't take them in, so it has to be destroyed." And I was like, fucking fuck. So literally, I told the guy, I said, "Look, dude," and considering who the guy was, he could be listening to this now, and it killed me to tell you this. I was like, "You're going to have to destroy it." And he's like, "Well, could I bandsaw it?" And I'm like, technically now, considering that it's the 2000s and the NFA, the ATF has changed the law, I said, you could bandsaw it, and maybe you could make an argument, but considering the time that you're bandsawing it, it wouldn't technically be considered destroying it. I said, you need to torch it. And I literally went to the ATF's website, got their procedures and their requirements for destroying a machine gun, and I sent it to him, and I said, "You gotta cut it like this." And it kills me to have to fucking tell you that. But it's like the guy didn't want to go to jail. He didn't want a piece of history destroyed. And as far as I know, he told me he's going to destroy it, and he's going to use a torch. And I said, "You got to use a torch." And you know, this kind of stuff sucks. Like they need to fix the NFA. You know, like we got to minimum got to get rid of the Hughes Amendment. Everything's got to be legal. Just get papers for it. That seems like a good compromise. Then, like, does this guy had this machine gun? It's been floating out there on the black market, you know, not controlled by anyone that you would know. The ATF doesn't know this gun exists. People are scared to deal with it, and it could fall in the wrong hands if you want to make that argument wrong hands. This is fucked up. Like, I called around to 07, which is an FFL manufacturer. Like, if Glock is an 07. Smith & Wesson is an 07. Okay? Wilson Combat is an 07. Nobody could take this gun, even as a reference gun, as a post-dealer sample machine gun. Because of the way it works. And it was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And this thing was destroyed. You know, and it was just like, fuck, you know? And that's why it's like you make these arguments like these M16s. It's like, well, you got plausible deniability just,
just having them.
just putting them in the corner with the other stuff. You're like, I don't know. I don't recall. I don't know.
Yeah,
No,
and if you put them in the corner for years and years and say another amnesty came through, I need to register 16 of them.
yeah. It's so crappy. It sucks that you have to wait for an amnesty because a lot of the times the way these guns ended up in this situation, it was because either people were ignorant of the law or at the time, okay, like, look at the time we live in now. People were like the bump stock ban or the pistol or the pending maybe pistol brace ban. How many people? Again, I'm not saying this is right, but I'm putting you in the time frame and the mindset of people in the 40s. Okay, how many people have you heard around the internet today that are like, fuck you and your fucking pistol brace ban. I ain't giving up shit. You know what I mean? They're like, I bought it legally. Yeah. I have it legally. I ain't giving you money to tell the government something that was legal yesterday isn't legal today. Fuck you. You know, and then this gun now, it goes through life. Maybe someone dies, their children get it. And these guns end up in these scenarios in the future when the mindset is different or the priorities of the people that now have custody of this gun are different. And it's a fucking mess, you know? And, you know, that's how this kind of stuff happens. You know, you today sitting at home going, I am not fucking giving you my fucking bump stock. Fuck you. It's a piece of shit anyway. Fucking, you can't ban physics. You know, and then it's like, you know, then this thing goes through life and ends up becoming this giant, you know, depending on whatever happens with the bump stocks, becomes this giant NFA, you know, gotcha problem.
Yes, you know? It
does. I hate this kind of stuff. So,
yeah.
All right.
Unfortunately, it's the world we live in.
It is the world we live in. So, hey, you want to hear the world we live in? Did you hear about the woman in Montana that shot the wolf and got on and skinned it?
Oh, the one with the blue eyes that looked like a husky?
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah.
Oh, God, what a moron.
Well, you know, people make mistakes, dude, and it's like...
I've never seen a wolf with blue eyes.
I know. Well, most people have never seen a wolf, period. Obviously, she's never have either. And, you know, she put it on the internet because she's like, look, everybody, I shot a wolf. You know? I mean, people put shit up on the... Hey, look, a guy named Tex Grubner put a video up on YouTube of him shooting himself in the leg with his Kimber 1911. You know,
yeah,
like...
But did she throw the husky pelt in front of her fireplace?
She had the husky pelt laid out, like, I think on the bed of her truck.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, fuck. Yeah, I thought...
And they wonder why they put directions on Pop-Tarts.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Like, look, you know, like we want to start shooting coyotes at the John 1911 range. I'm going to be honest with you. You know, I do have some concerns about accidentally shooting some neighboring farm's dog. You know, like I've even thought about actually contacting all the adjacent properties and being like, hey, you have any dogs? Can you put them up tonight?
No, past tense. Did you have any?
Yeah, did you have any dogs? Yeah. Veterinary taxidermy services. Either way, you get your dog back. You know, it's like, you know, you shoot night vision or thermal, and you know,
you can't tell
a cane. I mean, like you could definitely tell a Wiener Schnitzel dog compared to a. Well, you know, yeah. Like a German Shepherd, you know, a small German Shepherd on night vision or thermal would probably look like a coyote, you know, and it's like, you know, we got to be damn sure, you know, like that I'm not that I obsess on it, but it's like it's a concern to the point that I've even considered starting to maybe get closer to all the neighboring farms and learning their dogs. Be like, okay, they got Labradors over here, or they got a Shepherd over here because they run animals and they use the Shepherd. You know what I mean? Like kind of knowing the dogs. Like I've never actually detected a domesticated animal on our property other than a cat. There is a cat I've seen. I haven't seen it this year. I saw it 2 years ago that was coming over. but I don't think anybody would shoot a cat thinking it's a coyote.
No.
But they'd shoot it thinking it's a raccoon or something. So
yeah,
but,
if you shot a cat with a 300 Win Mag, it might do a little bit of damage.
Danny, do you fish?
No.
You don't fish? Have you ever fished?
No. Yeah, when I was a kid, it just the only fishing that me and Mrs. Danny like doing is when we go down to Florida. We like to go deep sea fishing.
Oh, I'd love to do that. Look, look
have you ever done it?
Danny's like, oh, I don't fish except when I deep sea fish. Jesus
I
Christ.
thought you meant I mean like a weekend fisher, bass boat type thing. No, we love to go deep sea fishing. Absolutely love it.
I would love to try that.
You would enjoy it.
I would
enjoy it. And what's funny is if certain boats where you go, they had this like 3.5 foot baseball bat hanging up there. And
no.
Let me finish. And I go, what in the hell is that for? Well, a lot of times we hook sharks and we just beat them.
Yeah, got me.
Because you don't know what's there until you start pulling it up.
Mm-hmm. I saw a video the other day of a swordfish actually spearing a fish and then eating it. I was like, oh, that's why they have those big old long things. There's a story out of Ohio. 2 fishermen were caught cheating in a fishing tournament.
I seen that.
Mm-hmm.
I seen that. They were putting lead sinkers in for extra weight, so they won.
They put giant lead balls, and then they were taking fillets of other fish and jamming them in there, and they were getting weighed. And I guess their fish weighed almost double of other people, and they were the same size fish. So one of the it's on video, like right there, like one of the officials literally takes out a little gutting knife. He guts the fish and starts pulling out right in front of everybody. And
did you hear the crowd?
Oh, they're lucky they didn't get beat with axe handles. The Chase Kaminsky from Pennsylvania and Jake Runyon from Ohio were taking part in the Lake Erie Walleye Trail Championship in Cleveland's Gordon Park on Friday when they were caught red-handed. Kaminsky and Runyon's catch weighed almost 33 pounds, almost double their closest competitor. And it's like, the fish, that's not a 33-pound fish.
Yeah.
What's it? Uranium will fill with lead. But I was like, God damn! Like, I've heard there's a fishing tournament that's not that far from the John 1911 range, and I've talked to them. They're like, they apparently bring in X-rays. They just they lay them all out and X-ray them, and it's like, what? What are you talking about? It's a fishing tournament. Like, dude, people cheat, and like, holy shit! I was like, you got to be kidding me. So,
they do the same thing in baseball and softball travel tournaments. They cheat. You know how?
They cork the bats?
All the bats nowadays are made of composite material. And for lots and lots of money, you can have these bats shaven, which gives the ball coming off the bat much more faster and more distance. So we actually have a compression tester, and the factory standards of a compression have to be within these numbers. And sometimes you'll take a bat that is like shaved, and you'll put it on the compression thing, and the gauge goes off the thing. Illegal.
So it's a juice. They're juicing the bats.
Yes, they're juicing the bats terribly.
Do they call it juicing the bats?
No, they call it shaving.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's cheating going on. My point is, there's cheating going on and everything. I mean, come on, they look at the air and the football scandals.
Yeah, the steroid era and all that.
If there is a way for someone to cheat to win, they're going to do it. Be it lead in a fish, air in a football, shaving a baseball bat. It's actually sad, isn't it?
Greg McGuire taking HGH or whatever that bottle he was taking.
That was Rogaine for his hair.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Come on, how could you forget something like that?
So
it's sad, isn't it? It's actually sad.
Well, since we've crossed over into cheating, let's go ahead and do the police blotter and toss this one so we can get out. We've been going a nice long time here, so.
Well, we needed to do one.
Yeah, we needed to do one. We're glad to have you back, and sorry to hear your family's been going all the stuff down there in Florida. So
yeah, it's been crazy.
Here's the first one. there's a story. You know what the incel is? Involuntarily celibate. These people that hate women because they can't get laid. That's the short version.
Right.
And
They make eunuchs of themselves.
yeah, or they do something they do, and they run it where they hate women because women won't date them or have sex with them, and it's not because these people are crazy. I personally believe that incels are prototypical serial killers, and we just didn't have cell phone video of Ted Bundy when he was in his incel stage before he became a mass murderer or serial killer. So this incel I don't know where this was at, but he goes out somewhere in public and he starts on a Friday night or something, and he's like these little cute girls because they're all dressed up to go out, and he's literally like stalking them with his phone, his video phone, saying shit to them like, hey, we have sex with me and fuck you whore, and like whatever all this stuff he's saying. And eventually the girls get mad and they're like, get the fuck away from me, and they start pushing him, get the fuck away, quit following us, and like it's like in a parking garage. So then one of the girls finally was like, quit fucking, you freak, like they're getting afraid, and so they start to resist against this guy. So now he claims self-defense, pulls out a giant-ass can of pepper spray and starts macing these girls.
No, I didn't hear that.
And it was like, of course, he's been arrested for stalking and a hate crime, but it's like, this story is like, you incel dudes need to go fucking kill yourselves or go get some help because you're serial killers. This has nothing to do with Jordan Peterson or whatever. You're fucking crazy. Girls won't date you because your pH is off, not because the quarterback on the high school football team is cooler than you. It's because you're fucking nuts. They're like, look, incel, there's plenty of fat chicks out there. Miss me with your bullshit. Like, come on,
Or they watch the old Three Stooges clip, the Women Haters Club. Watch that if you get a chance.
Did you hear the story? Your hometown in Chicago, did you hear about the man? Man shows up at a SWAT training, breaks into the building, and steals 2 guns from the SWAT training he found laying around. I don't know if they were Code Eagle guns, and got shot by the cops running away or fleeing. He pointed the gun at the cop. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I heard about it. Yes, I did.
It made all the news up there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, both of the officers whose guns those were supposedly on desk duty.
Oh, that sucks. Like
because the guy broke into a secure area. Come on.
I don't know how it all works. I don't know how secure it was, but now there's the final police blotter is going. It's out of Cincinnati, and this is a horrendous story. And we've had a couple other horrendous stories where there's lessons to be learned, and there's a lesson to be learned here. And I guess this one is for the Kessel Doctrine, but also, is an idea of how things can go from bad to worse. A woman in Cincinnati, a suburb, has been charged in the death of a man she stabbed. And apparently she stabbed this guy in the neck. I don't know why she stabbed him. I don't know what it was about. I don't know if she knew him, if it was domestic, if it was a dope deal, if it was something else. But she stabbed him in the neck. Okay? That did not kill him. But she's charged with his murder. Well, he's fearing for his life, so he runs from her, and maybe she's chasing him. He runs up the steps of a house, breaks into the house to get away from this woman. The occupant of the house calls 911 and is like, somebody's breaking into my house. Boom, 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 shot the guy dead because this crazy person was breaking into his house, in their house covered in blood. So this guy got killed by the homeowner trying to flee from being stabbed. And the homeowner has not been charged and should not be charged. But it's just one of those things where you can't make this shit up. Bad shit happens. Don't
ever say you have a bad day. That poor bastard got it on both ends.
Yeah, he got it on both ends. That's right. And that wraps up episode 273 of the John1911 Podcast. If you want to see any more stories or pictures or links of everything we discuss, please go to our website at john1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good day.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.